the cloud's pretty cool, but I don't think a lot of people really know what the cloud means in terms of career choice. When it comes to working in the cloud, remember, we use it every day. So if you go up to Facebook to do something or send a tweet or whatever, you're using a cloud service without realizing it. That's because Twitter and Facebook are using some sort of cloud provider to store all of their data, or to do analysis with artificial intelligence of that data, or to provide the service itself. If you're a small business and you're using email, you're going to be using something like Office 365 or some sort of service that more than likely is cloud-based. So what does that mean? Well, there are a couple of different kind of ways to look at the cloud, or at least services that are available for the cloud. For example, there's software as a service. They call it SaaS, or SaaS to be fancy, to be cool. That means that in the cloud, there are services that are just ready to go, and you can use them all day long for a fee. If you're in a sales profession, you may have used something called Salesforce Com. It's basically a customer relationship management service, and it's software that you can use that's available rather than you having to install some sort of server somewhere and get all that going. It's just available for you in the cloud for a login and a price. That's just an example of a software as a service kind of play. There's Office 365, there's others like that. In the cloud, there's also something that's takes a little bit more malice and forethought, takes a little bit more work to get going, but you can customize it more, and that's called platform as a service. That means that there are all the tools, all the libraries, all the hardware necessary, I should say processing power, necessary to build your own applications. So you could say, well, we need something that is more customized. Well, that's when you need something called platform as a service. It's kind of a delivery platform that allows you to create what you need. If you want to get even more granular than that, there's infrastructure as a service, IaaS. That's where you can actually start to say, I'm going to create my own processors and how much RAM and all this different hardware. So you're getting even more detailed into exactly what kind of service, what kind of platform, what kind of things you want to use on the internet. As a cloud infrastructure provider, your job is to understand each of those three elements and more in understanding what it means to put together a business solution for somebody in the cloud. Now, traditional on-premise or traditional data center kind of computing, that's still something that's very real. And as a cloud worker, you're going to be working not only as a cloud worker, but also with data center people. That's called a hybrid environment, meaning you're going to be working with old school technology and the very latest and greatest, and you're going to make them all work and play well together. It's really important to understand that. There are a lot of different job roles out there. You might be a network or a cloud engineer. That means you're somebody who puts all those services together. You'll log into Google Cloud or IBM Cloud or AWS or Azure and put things together, make things happen. You also might become an architect. It's a higher end sort of thing where you look at from a higher end and from I should say, a more strategic perspective on how different systems work together. You could also become a cloud security worker, and there are various job roles related to working in the cloud. Even technical support. You often need to work with the cloud. But another thing is, for example, some sort of data engineer. A lot of times as you are putting together solutions to understand how data comes to the cloud, how you store it, how you process it into information so that it can become actionable, useful information for sales, for marketing, for research. You'll be doing that as well in the cloud. There are so many different things that you can do to start learning about the cloud. You can work with MyComputerCareer's people to understand what it means to work in the cloud, the different types of training that you need. But just to get started, it's possible for you to get your free kind of cloud account going. You have to be careful. If you choose the wrong services once you've logged into AWS or to Azure, you could end up getting charged for just starting up a Linux system or a Windows system if you're not careful. But if you're careful, there are various free services that you can get going. So go up to one of these services, Google Cloud or AWS, and you can actually log in and start snooping around and tinkering with what it means to be a cloud worker. You'll see all sorts of services available. from business intelligence to artificial intelligence to blockchain. There's so many different technologies that aren't going to be available maybe in 3 to 5 years or maybe in 6 months. They're available right now. Again, be careful, you could get charged for them, but if you are wise, you can actually tinker around for a low fee, for a low cost. And there are various labs, though, that you can get involved with MyComputerCareer, with CompTIA, to teach you more about what it means to work in the cloud. I've worked with a lot of people who have been cloud workers, and it's really neat to hear about people who, for example, there's a person who is a brick and mortar retailer who basically moved old school applications up to the cloud. And he discovered what it meant to take old code and put it up into the cloud. He discovered very quickly you can't just lift that code and shift it up into the cloud. You have to do some modifications. But those are the kinds of challenges that cloud service people are ready to address at any given moment. I also talked to a person who was working with hybrid cloud and was basically finding that not only did he work with the cloud, but had to work in the data center environment and had to get those two going together. I also know a person who was just starting out and basically found out that she knew more about what cloud services were than a lot of people who were paid better than her. And she found that she had a much better career because she was able to very nicely, but also very intelligently offer cloud-based solutions to people who didn't even know they were a possibility. There's another person I know who basically worked for a major bank and basically discovered how easy it was, once you understood the cloud, to automate things that seemed so difficult and so costly. She found that if you use a cloud solution, it's very easy to do automation of some things. So it's really neat to see how the cloud kind of leapfrogs certain technologies. And it's kind of that approach that you have as a cloud worker that makes it possible for you to add value to your organization.